2B2T is widely recognized as the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft, a place where chaos reigns, rules don't exist, and the server history is as legendary as the game itself. But over the years, the server has undergone numerous updates that have shaped its landscape and gameplay. However, not all updates are created equal, and some have negatively impacted the community. In this video, I'll be diving into the details of what I believe to be the worst update in 2B2T's history, exploring its consequences and the reasons why it stands out as the low point of the server. For the longest time, 2B2T has been stuck on the 1.12.2 version. It was released back in September 2017, and ever since then, the server has missed out on some major updates and features, including netherite armor, new terrain generation, and even going below Y0. But when Minecraft released the 1.19 update, 2B2T finally updated their server on August 2023. Now this change would have been massive for the server, as the update allowed 2B2T players to explore features they missed out on and refresh the gameplay experience in the server, with new features available for certain players. However, the update would also include new rules for the anarchy server, which players didn't want in the first place. But this update did bring some positive changes, such as an increase in render distance for each player, improved spawn rates for animals and monsters, and disabling of phantom spawns. However, these improvements are overshadowed by a host of negative changes that have a far greater impact on the server, that the bad outweighs the good in this update. For instance, one major change that they stated is soft item economy reset. Certain items have been removed or have had their stack size reduced to 1, with the intent of players working to obtain these items again. These items include end crystals, bottle of enchanting, enchanted golden apples, and totem of undying. They basically said that in the past, players used duplication exploits to gather these items illegitimately, and it would have made an unfair advantage among new players, leading to create significant damage to the server, which is why they wanted to remove certain items in players' inventories. This change never made sense for the server. In my opinion, I feel like this change would have done the opposite and would have ruined the server. 2B2T is meant to be an anarchy server with no rules, tampering with players' inventories, using admin powers, and dictating what they have and what not is not considered anarchy. Sure, there are some items that are game breaking that you could argue should be removed, like book banning, where players use overloaded books to crash others' games or disconnect them from the server. But I feel like these items should not be limited or removed, as you could obtain these items legitimately. Another major change that they stated is old chunks trimming. They basically stated here that unused chunks with no player history will be replaced with new 1.19 chunks, and the reason why they wanted to remove old chunks and replace it with new chunks is mainly to reduce the memory storage. Now the issue with this is that sometimes when people try and find other bases, they rely on pre-existing chunks. A chunk trail is one of the most optimal ways to find bases, so them wanting to remove old chunks and even hide in the world seed, it would have made some bases to hunt much harder or close to impossible to find. Now they did add other changes to this update, but I believe these changes that I've mentioned got the most hate. When 2B2T announced this update, the players hated it, mainly because this update would have changed everything about the server and even how they perceived the server. And so the immediate response was that players wanted to request to refund their priority queue status. If you don't know, the priority queue is a paid monthly subscription that lets players skip the long waiting line and join the server faster. So players that already had priority queue for next month wanted to refund their subscription to tell the admin that this is not what they wanted, and tampering the server like this would make the server the same as any other Minecraft survival server. Anyways, after a few days of this outrage, the owner and founder of 2B2T, Housemaster, decided to respond and explain why he made those decisions on 24th of August as an apology to players that frequently play on the 2B2T server. With the reason why he wanted to reset the soft item economy, he stated, "My thought behind this was to slow down the initial rush of player progression into 1.19, to allow for a different meta and to make items somewhat valuable again, even if it for a short period. The decision was made made with the thought that the remaining massive amounts of items will be back into players' hands quickly, as well as inevitable duplication exploits occurring things will be back to normal within a month or two. This justification of a response never made sense for the server, because it sounded like the owners were trying to control what the meta was rather than letting players decide what the meta should be for the server. And the reason why he wanted to trim old chunks, he stated, "This was another difficult decision. I do understand that Elytra flight trails would become non-existent, and that certain players would become non-existent, and that certain players who enjoyed trail hunting would be upset, but he believes the positives outweigh the negatives. The reason is that there is simply such an extreme amount of these unmodified chunks generated with cheats or exploits." He further adds to this by saying that, "I also believe that the mixed generation of new terrain with established old terrain increasing towards spawn in all dimensions would be more fun for new and old players." At the end of this post, he concluded, "I apologize and may only ask for your forgiveness going forward, and hope that if you still play on the server, you have a good time, and that I may hopefully regain your trust." This whole post from Housemaster ultimately left a sour taste upon 2b2t players, and there were no mention of reverting the changes to how it was in 1.12 towards the server. This response still made players even more mad, and so a day later, Housemaster finally listened to the community and re-rolled back to what the server used to be before the 1.19 update, as well as finally removing the two main changes and keeping the positive and neutral changes of the update. This new 1.19 update was met with love, as this was what players wanted in the first place, rather than an update that completely disregards what 2b2t originally stood for, the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft.